Welcome back, YouTube consumers. And today is a long anticipated video that I've been, I guess, rehearsing in my head for years. And we're going to talk about how to fish the ZARA spook. And actually, more accurately, how I fish the ZARA spook. And the ZARA spook is a legendary lure created way before I was even thought about, right? And through my research, I learned it was originally designed for saltwater fish, mainly snook and redfish, and that its name, the ZARA part, comes from uh, there was a street called ZARA Street where there was a lot of sex trafficking going on. At least that's what we call it now. And the men back then described the lure the way it walked, like the woman down on ZARA Street. So that's how it got its name. I don't know why that's in this video, but anyway, let's keep going. I also, before I made this video, I watched other people attempt to give you directions and tips and tricks on how to fish the ZARA spook. And uh, that was more inspiration for me here because I think some of the things they're telling you are kind of hacks and workarounds or shortcuts that kind of replace practice and learning and adaptation, and basically the human experience of acquiring a skill. A lot of these videos seem to, and that's, that's the essence or tone of the internet is, how can we speed up the process, right? Whatever the process may be. In this case, it's learning how to fish the ZARA spook, which is one of those lures, unlike the Whopper Plopper, which you can just throw out and wind in and catch fish. And that's one of the reasons it's very popular. And actually, now that I think about it, one of the reasons why the ZARA spook is becoming less popular is because it's not easy. You're not going to be good at it the first time you try it, the second time you try it, or even the 10th try, maybe. You have to work at it to get better, which, by the way, is fishing in its essence. The first time you went fishing, you weren't good at it. Anyway, so let's start with, I'm not going to give you an equipment list because that's all going to depend on what you're fishing for, where you're fishing. The specifics, that's up to you and your brain. Okay. I guess I could tell you what I use. I give you a quick little rundown of what I use and do with that what you will, right? So I fish mostly for smallmouth and largemouth bass up in New England, right? So I'm using usually a 7-foot rod with 10-pound mono and a regular spinning reel and no swivel or clasp. The line is being tied directly to the ZARA spook. And while I'm going to go out of order here, but while the clasp or the swivel or what have you, whatever hack you're using to make it easier for the bait to zigzag, right? Rather than you get the timing right, is the thing is you're going to get less hook setting power because now your line is attached to something that's not fixed, it's moving, right? So of course, rather than you pulling directly on the lure. Now you're pulling on a clasp or a swivel that's going to move, right? So the more moving parts, the more things can fail. That's anything, machinery, fishing, what have you. You want to try to decrease your variables or moving parts. So tip number one, I don't care what Charlie Campbell did, okay, the supposed spook master, who I've done some research on, because he used a snap. And maybe that's why a lot of you are, you know, adopting that policy. No, I'm here to tell you no, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. Now, let's start with let's start with casting. Unless you are casting to a specific target where you think there's a fish, right? Or you want to cast just past a fish or what have you. Okay, that's different. Aside from that, longer is better when it comes to fishing the ZARA spook. The longer the cast, the more time your lure is going to be in the water presenting as a wounded bait fish or frog or what have you, right? Longer is better. Now, the longer out you are, the more difficult it is to set the hook, but it's not impossible. Trust me. I've caught plenty of fish at the end of my line on monofilament. Okay. You just have to be very certain your line is tight before you set the hook. Okay. And a lot of people make the mistake of, and I've made it the mistake this year. Okay. It's fishing the ZARA spook is difficult. When they smash it, okay, you want to set the hook. Your reactions, of course, is to set the hook, but you have to make sure you get the line tight first. And unlike any other lure, where you're already kind of in a tight line scenario, you fish the ZARA spook with a foot of slack or more on purpose. That's what gives it the back and forth action. So, even more important than any other topwater lure with the ZARA spook is to get your line tight before giving the old heave ho, whether it's 5 feet from you or 50. Okay. You have to get the line tight first, or you're going to break your own heart. Okay. It's one thing for someone else to break your heart, but to break your own heart over and over again is why people quit this hobby. Similar to golf in that respect. Okay, so longer is better, especially if you're casting out into open water, which I find where often big fish are roaming. They might be, 10 feet below the surface, but they're out there roaming, looking for a meal. Okay, so just throw it out there as far as you can. Okay, and how about, getting better at casting? You don't have to be casting the same distance as you were when you first learned how to fish. I'm not. Okay. And I want to say this too. This is very important. On the instructions on the back of the package of the ZARA spook, often, not every time, because I did a little research and packages are different depending on the date they were manufactured, where they were shipped to, whether it be, the United States or a different country. But I would say most of the time, the directions tell you cast the ZARA spook out, and when it lands, and we'll talk about that, when it lands, to let all the ripples disappear. And I will tell you that I do that on 5% of the casts I make. 5%. And I'm being generous here. The other 95%, as soon as the ZARA spook hits the water, I am walking. Now let's talk about it hitting the water. If you're casting, we're just going to make up a number here, a round number, 100 feet. You're going to cast 100 feet. Your cast is going 100 feet. Now, I do this with almost every single lure I cast. I don't know about you guys, but I do it. And it's something I've developed over the past decade or so. Is 5 feet or so, maybe 10 feet or so before that lure is going to hit the water, I stop it, I flip the bail, and I take a little of the momentum out of the bait. So it is not crashing into the water at 50 miles an hour or whatever the speed is that you threw it at, right? And one of my dad's friends pushed back on me, introducing this topic to him because, of course, he must disagree with anything he's never heard of before. And was like, "Oh, don't you want a big splash to attract the fish? Maybe little fish, but big fish aren't dumb. If if you use that same logic, why aren't you out here throwing rocks to attract the fish, dude? Don't you want big splashes? Why don't you throw a brick out there before you throw the ZARA spook so you could track the fish?" Like, it doesn't even make sense, right? Don't you want a big splash? Fish aren't dumb. They know when something natural hits the water, and they know when something unnatural hits the water. Okay? So, or at least unnatural sounding, right? So, this is what I do. Instead of the full crash into the water, because for all that fish knows, okay, that you're near or that's in the vicinity. And this is my thinking. When a fish sees a splash up on the surface, it doesn't think that came from the sky. Its reasoning is that is a fish that's wounded or struggling and just broke the surface from below. From below. So, how big a splash is it going to make? It's going to make a disturbance, but it's not going to be like throwing a brick or a 3/4 ounce ZARA spook 100 feet, which is going to make a fucking splash if you're going at the full speed. Okay. So, again, just and I will tell you, I do this with every lure almost, except maybe some plastic worms that don't really make any sort of disturbance when they hit the water. Okay. But almost every other lure, whether it be a crankbait, a spinner bait, a jig, if I'm throwing it far, I stop it in the last 5 or 10 feet and take some of that momentum out so it falls down in a lighter, more natural way. Okay? Little tip. And now, like I said, instead of letting the ripples disappear in the bass left to just, if there is one there that's been attracted to it, it's coming over and now it's studying, right? You want to let the bass study your bait, or do you want to trigger the predatory response? Because guess what? When a bait fish realizes that a big fish is around, it doesn't sit and it tries to escape. Okay. So imagine you're a bass. You've seen something is breaking the water, and now it's it's trying to get away quickly. The instinct is to hit it. And now I will go into 50%, I will say, of the strikes that you're going to get are within the first 20% of the retrieve. Now, it's fucking math and statistics. Half, let's be generous or conservative, half the strikes you're going to get are within the first 10 feet, 20 feet of your retrieve. And the other half are going to be in the rest of your retrieve. And like I said, some fish hit. I had one a couple weeks ago hit a foot from the boat. Like I was wondering afterwards, why was the lure still in the water? Why did I work it all the way back so far? Well, because sometimes they will hit right when it lands. Sometimes they will hit at the boat. Okay. So the point here is, the instructions on the package might be, unlike the lure, antiquated. There might be more than one or more than 19 ways to fish the ZARA spook. And I just want to introduce an alternative to the package instructions, which people read like it's the gospel, right? Like Old Testament, not that New Testament bullshit. as I insert opinion here. Okay. More assumptions that I need to debunk. It's only for shallow water. Wrong. Wrong. And I would say the biggest fish that I've caught on the ZARA spook have come from at least in 10 feet of water. Okay. Another assumption that I need to negate is that it's only for calm water. Calm water. And I, as a ZARA spook fisherman, as someone who throws it at least half the time, half the fishing trips, if not more, I throw it. Okay. Because guess what? When nothing else is working, that will. Okay. So it's not only for shallow water. It's no problem throwing it in 20 feet of water if you got clear water, or even if you don't have clear water. Okay. Because guess what? Those fish in 20 feet of water could be sitting at 10 feet or 6 feet. Right. And the bottom just happens to be 20 feet. So not only calm water, I love me a little chop with the ZARA spook because, like I said before, if you're in dead, calm, flat water, the fish's vision is at the best it can be. So any mistake, any blip in your technique is going to be magnified. Any, blemish in the paint is going to be magnified. Whereas if you've got a little wind and a little chop on the water, now the fish is seeing less. And I purport that if there's wind and the water's a little rough, that a bait fish is going to be more likely to be struggling than if it's just dead calm water. Why is this bait fish struggling if the water is not even moving? Right? And again, like I am always thinking, I apologize if this is getting annoying, but I'm always thinking about the big fish and what they're thinking. I really don't care about little fish and what they're thinking. I don't care. I kind of catch them as like, not by accident, but as like, I'm like, it's still satisfying, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'm getting a little obsessive with the trying to catch a big smallmouth specifically because I've caught in big largemouth. So yeah, maybe it's got me thinking a little weird. Anyway, let's see if I missed anything here because I did write some notes down to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And I'm going to interweave some pictures of me holding big fish with the ZARA spook because, I want to have some credibility here. I don't want you to think I'm just talking out of my bum. Yeah. Also, varying the retrieve during your retrieve is important. You can start out fast and finish slow. You can start out slow, finish fast, stop. There's a lot of room for creativity. That's one of the reasons I love the ZARA spook. It's like a blank canvas, right? With many different ways on how to like work it. Work it, work it, work it, work it. And I thought about like the mechanics of it, and it's like the golf swing, okay? There's no one right way to work the ZARA spook, just so long as it is working. Like, Don, that doesn't make sense. Like, there are a million infinite different ways to swing the golf club, right? But as long as you're making solid contact and your results are good, there's no reason to change your swing to make it more fundamental, right? And the same thing goes with fishing, okay? I don't cast like my father does. He taught me how to fish. I developed my own way on how to cast. I don't even know if I deliberately did it. It just occurred, right? And I don't know if I could teach anybody else how I do it. And that's one of the beauties of fishing is that you can teach yourself. It's an old skill that is in your DNA. We use modern equipment now, but the whole thought process of like getting inside a fish's brain and trying to think like a fish and anticipate what a fish is going to do and how they're going to behave, that's all embedded in you, you know? And yeah, that's, I think, one of the reasons I love the ZARA Spook is that it demands that you always be learning. Yeah. So thank you. And tight lines to you. And, fish ZARA. Fish the Spook. If you've been intimidated, because it's not the easiest thing to learn, you can do it. There are 65-year-old men that had never fished it hardly ever in their life that were inspired by me. Because I said, here's a ZARA Spook, take it. How do you not have one in your tackle box? What is wrong with you? Right? If you're a bass fisherman and you don't have ZARA Spook in your tackle box, I could totally judge you. I could. I could pass a wicked judgment, bruh. I won't, but I could.